Hello and welcome to Live in the Zolkin. I'm your host, 3 Cat Paul, and on today's episode I'm talking with Josh Johnson about the important practice of using Mayan language when practicing Mayan calendars. I'd like to thank our sponsors, the TZOLKIN Explorer app, and I'd also like to thank a big shout out to the British explorer William Gates for first coining the term Zolkin. Big ups to William Gates. Big ups to William Gates.
I can't remember exactly how I came upon it. It probably was just by chance. But I found this dictionary, and
What's the name of the dictionary? What's it called?
It's Kiche /English Dictionary and Guide to Pronunciation of the Kiche Maya Alphabet. Alan J. Christensen, Brigham Young University. If you type that in, it'll probably give you a link to that fancy.org.
Well, shout out to Brigham Young University, holding it down. What's up?
So what I did, I had known about the website and the dictionary a couple of years, and then it struck me to actually, you can download it, the dictionary. But what I did was I got it made into a book because I think it has a lot just back and forth, and you don't have to depend on the electricity of your phone or computer. So anyway, I never got around to sending you one because you were moving around and stuff. But I made you one, and I think today will be the day that it gets sent to you.
I see.
But anyway, so yeah, I printed it out just so I could have it, like, and not have to depend on my phone or whatever to look at it. So yeah, that's what I did. Found when you start, I know that sounds funny to say it's profound to look at a dictionary, but you start to understand where these walls come from, when you consider the language. And I'm gonna use an example of your day, Cat.
Okay.
You look in this dictionary, capitalized, but then you start looking at the words around that. You have cat, same spelling. It says net, cord, bag made of cords. So when you hear the net, well, that's because that's what the word means. It's not some like new age thought that, oh, it's a net. No, this is actually what the word means. That's the definition of the word. Okay, then you go down to the next word, cat, chapal, kur. See, my pronunciation is preschool level still as well. But the definition of that,
Josh, son.
So that word is defined as fishnet, and pretty profound considering that you used to be a fisherman, right?
Well, actually, it was my brother. Check it out. My brother was the one who was the fisherman. I was always the one with the net.
Okay, yeah. So you actually used a net to fish, right?
I actually didn't really. I hardly ever used the rod. Like I mean, I would catch the odd salmon or whatever, but like really, like my brother would be out there trying to get these huge monster fish, rod and hook, and then they come in the boat, and I would be right there with the net, just ready to scoop that.
Okay. And this is
30-pound salmon or whatever.
This is before you.
It's my childhood right there, man. Especially teenagers.
Yeah, so this is before you knew the calendar. So just to like clarify that, like, this isn't self-fulfilling prophecy or whatever.
Sure, but we
Right,
all
this
know
is
that anybody who is actually studies this knows that already. We're, that's level 1. We're level 56 right now. Keep going.
Yeah. 56.
56
that's
floors
okay,
down the
that's
rabbit hole.
number.
It's like we're on an elevator. Seriously, it's like you start off, you go into this rabbit hole, and then there's an elevator, and it's like goes all the way down to the basement, and it's like you don't even know what's down there. Janitor or something. Anyway, continue.
So, okay. Pabyan, in one of the lessons that he gave me, he talked about how cat is related to fire. He said there's 2 different types of fire. One is cat, and the other is tow. He said that cat is the fire that gives, and tow is the fire that consumes. It takes. So cat would be the fire that like cooks your meal for you. It gives you. It is giving to you. It's giving you a cooked meal.
The
and if
fire
you look
that
at this,
gives. I never thought about that before. But I've thought about it as a cooking fire, but I didn't.
So
the only thing that I knew about the cooking fire was like fire requires payment, so cat has to pay for has to pay, energetically or metaphorically or whatever, archetypally.
Yeah, well, if you see, when you start to learn this language, you start to kind of understand the way of Mayan thinking, and this is the Kiche dictionary, and so there are several different groups of Mayan people. Kiche isn't the only one, so
there's more than 20
several
languages. I know that.
Yes, and to clarify too that there, this is just understanding it from the Kiche speaking perspective.
Fair enough, but Kiche are a Maya group, so calling them Maya is not incorrect,
Right. I'm just clarifying.
Sure, yeah.
So
Maya and specifically Kiche, because of their strength in their record keeping power and strength, resilience. Yeah, amazing.
So we're talking about the day cat, just as an example, using this dictionary. So I've already done cat, which was defined as the net, the cord, the bag made of cords. Chapal kur, which was the fish net. So the next word down is cat tukuch, which means medium cooked.
Cat. So, oof. Okay.
Okay. When I began communicating with Jose, he would give me little lessons too, and different examples or different nawals. And he told me for cat, you need to take a cold shower.
Right, I remember.
Which is also interesting because you are always jumping in the cold water. So next step.
Ice swimming is my hobby. I go swimming.
Okay, well, you may not. Well, obviously, you know that it helps you in some way.
Yeah, no, it's been actually one of the secrets to my success, I would say.
Yeah,
whatever little there is, any success that I have,
you would suffer because. Okay, this next word is katon, which means hot. And then that's the adjective. And then the next word is katon, which is a noun. It means fever, hot sweat. Then katon chi, which is, and my pronunciation again is probably not very accurate.
It's all good.
It means feverish. And then katanirik is to get hot. So it's important for cat people, or cold baths, get in the cold water, because if you don't, you're going to have too much heat. Now, this is getting into like pseudo type science or whatever.
Folklore, I'd say.
I don't know if that's, yeah.
That's it,
But,
you know,
okay.
there's facts and folklore.
Kenneth Johnson, he put out a book called Jaguar Medicine.
Yeah.
And he went on in that book to describe that, and Apabian touched on this a bit the other day, terms feminine and masculine, or they also look at things as hot and cold, and everything can be, you know, divided into those two opposites. Not specifically hot and cold, but those are just examples.
I see. Yeah, those.
So Kenneth, in his book Jaguar Medicine, he talked about how the foods that you eat can have those different qualities, hot and cold. It can all be divided. So I don't know what effect it can have on you, but you know, it could create illness in you. Or he actually talked about that. If you eat too many foods that have that hot nature to them, that hot quality, it could create illness in you. Specifically, from what I'm understanding by reading this, because you already have a hot nature, because the actual definitions of the words associated with kat mean to get hot or fevered. Is a noun. It means fire, destructive fire, the act of burning. Kaqchikel is a verb, is to commit adultery. Kaqchikel is burned. Kaqchikel is burned. Isa is to light on fire. And it goes on, and that it ends like 2 words down. So kat is associated with the net, the cord, and you've heard Ken Johnson say that they carried their offerings in the bag made of cords to burn in the fire, you know, to make their payment. So that's how using this dictionary can expand your knowledge of what the nawals mean.
Well, here's the project.
Okay.
Here's the project. The project is to, in the dictionary, just like we did for cat, we'll go through each and every day nawal, and then what we'll do is we'll post them all like in a sequence. So like in each one will only be 5, something like that.
Okay, well, I have to also say that for some of the days there aren't as many words associated with it, so it's more of a idea or concept behind it. Like for instance, today I was looking up kawok. There's only one other word,
which is
general spelling is kawinak. Is 40. The definition is 40, and then also 2 people, because the definition of wenak is people. And so
I always thought the months of the Hab calendar are called Weenucks. Isn't that true?
What's that?
The month of the Hab calendar is called a Weenuck.
Weenal.
Oh, okay. I'm mistaken. I'm sorry. I see. So it doesn't quite work as well like that. No, it's all good. It's all good.
You've heard kawok described as Apabian says that it is sheet lightning. Well, let me see if I've got my dictionary here, and if you look up lightning, it is koyapa. the sheet lightning, the blood lightning.
Yeah.
So this day is associated with the blood lightning. See, that's one way that it can't. That is one of the difficulties or the obstacles that I've found doing the translation, because like for co-op nouns with the same suffix.
Okay. Well, let's do it the reverse way then.
Prefix.
Which, yeah, sure. Just different adjective, verb, noun, etc. What other narwhals really apply themselves to language like cat does?
Okay, well, let me go to some T-hash. We'll just use our narwhals as examples. And so my little buddy here, McCray, he got scratched somehow, and the cat scratched him. Oh, the dog bit him. Sorry about that, buddy. Little hoon. Okay. Sorry for the distraction.
It's all good, man. Kids are cute. Kids are dope. Please continue.
Okay. So we're going to talk about T-hash since that's mine the wall. And this is a really good example of how using this dictionary can help you understand. When I was with Apabian in San Jose, we were sitting down and he told me that T-hash is like, the way he described it was like a lion or a tiger like ripping the meat off of the bone, or its prey, like tearing the meat away.
To tear.
So yeah. So we'll start with T-hash. Every one of the nawals in this dictionary is defined as day in the sacred calendar.
Nice.
I know you've probably heard T-hash defined or described as the warrior. So,
obviously
Bruce Lee was T-hash.
Bruce Lee was one of my favorite T-hashes of all time, yeah.
Okay, so he's one of the most well-known fighters, right?
Actor. Anyway, sorry about that. Continue.
No, perfect. So, okay, T-hash is spelled T-I-J-A-X.
No, hold on. Let me jump in here with English just for a second. Phonetic English alphabet goes T-E-A-S-H-S-A. Wait. T-E-A-H-A-S-H. That's what I meant to say. So that's how I would sound it out. So, for example, I'll give you something that's really funny, because I'm stupid, I read this word for years, probably 2 years before I heard it said, so I called it Tajax, and I'm like, oh, it's Tajax, because it's like T-I-J-A-X, and I'm like, okay, yeah. Tajax.
Me too, I did the same thing.
Well, it's because I don't speak Spanish, and, like, I don't read things in a Spanish way, so, like, I use English phonetics, and so, like, when I'm using Kiche, here's my argument, I think it's a solid one, there's no reason to get Spanish involved. This is between English and Kiche. It has nothing to do with Spanish. Get out of here.
Well, even
I think I'm correct
on
that.
Buddy,
Go ahead.
Even in between Spanish and Kiche, the pronunciation and the way that the letters are used is different. Yeah. So when the Kiche language was first translated by the conquistadors, I can't remember the name of the guy who did it, but I think his name was like Friar de Landa or something like that. He was a Catholic friar, but and I probably got the name wrong, so nobody get mad at me if it's not accurate.
I love your Carolina accent on it. It's dope, dude. You're like Friar de Landa, and it's like, yeah, that's probably what his name was. Yeah, okay.
Pink Hill, I sell propane tank accessories.
I think his name was Fried Chicken or something. Anyway, sorry, continue. I'm sorry.
I think his name is Fried Chicken DeLanda.
Colonel Sanders or something. I don't know. Okay, what were we talking?
We were talking about how when the conquistadors came and they started translating the Kiche into, written language, iconographic, pictographic language.
We could just say it Roman characters. In Japan, they call it Romaji.
Yeah,
I think that's
that works.
Yeah, they call the Roman alphabet. It's called Romaji over here. So like English, German, French, we all use the Roman alphabet. Russian, a little bit different there, but it's all called Romaji.
Well, that it makes sense because when you think about Rome, you think about the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Jinx. You got to do 10 Hail Marys. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so these friars, they started translating the language into Latin and Spanish. So, and then you had Linda Shiel in our era, and David Stewart and his father George Stewart. They started to decipher these pictograms, these iconograms or graphs or whatever.
We'll find out what it's actually called in Mayan. What's it called in Kiche writing? Do you know? In your dictionary?
Well, actually, the Kiche language is called Kaqchikel. Let's see. Okay, well, the definition of handwriting is called Sib.
Okay.
Writings are Sibanik. So I don't know if they have like the actual word for pictograms.
So Sibanik, let's call it.
Yep. So they just, they started to decipher all of these hieroglyphs and pictograms and realized that each of these symbols represented like a letter or a syllable.
Right.
And so they started translating all these pictures. So now we're talking about the language. And
yeah. Well, it's the beautiful.
So, you were talking about how you spelled them phonetically, but you can't do that if you're gonna look up the language, because you're gonna not find the word you're looking for.
But it potentially could be. Anyways, continue.
Yeah. So we're getting back to these definitions. T-hash is Tijax. It's a day in the sacred calendar.
Tihash. Continue.
So if you look at the words that begin with that prefix of Tij,
yeah,
there's only 3 words that precede T-hash in the dictionary. And the first one is to try hard, to fight to do something. Okay, that word is, and I have to clarify. See, this language is so much different than English. Verbs, the way they're said, like when you're describing, you can use the verb to talk about yourself, another person, the plural form.
Yeah, so they don't differentiate between singular and plural.
No, they do.
Oh, okay.
That can be confusing, because when you use a verb, you add like the form, or I don't know how to explain it. You're using it for yourself. You're using it for someone else. Formal. So it changes the word.
Didn't get that. Could you say that again?
Yeah, I was saying the plural form, the like
sure,
for someone word for each of those.
Sure. Okay. Cool. Okay, so you had T hub is to try hard or to fight?
Yeah, no, T chuk ab is to try hard,
T
to fight, to do something.
To
T
try hard.
T is to try hard, to fight, to do something.
Is to fight, to do something?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
I just say warrior because I've always with warriors or whatever.
Yeah. I could even think of, you could say conflict, you know, to be specific, you know. T-hash is right.
The next word is something.
Ha! To bite,
you know,
to bite. Yeah.
To eat something. So.
Yeah, but I think it could be the teacher.
Here's a realization I just had.
Sure.
You know, we're talking about these definitions, and earlier we were talking about the complementaries of like signs, and you know, T-hash and cat are complementaries. Well, cat cooks food, T-hash eats the food.
Yeah, or T-hash is the knife that cuts the food.
Right.
What do you have next to the stove? Your knife, you know?
Like, yeah, so those...
Sorry.
And that they see that knowing this language can help clarify how these walls fit together, too.
Okay, so as you said, next, the T-hash bites the food. Bites.
T-hash is in sacred calendar. It was explained to me as like a tiger biting the flesh. Yeah,
tearing. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Your teeth, you know, your teeth are used to
cutting.
So T-O is to eat something. And okay, under T-hash in this dictionary is teeth bane. That is the act of eating. Teeth bane. That's a noun. Yeah.
The active, that would be a verb, isn't it?
That was labeled in this dictionary, and that's where I was saying some of this is inaccurate.
Okay, next.
Tihik is to eat.
Tihik.
Yes, okay, so next you have Tihobal. That is a classroom, a school.
That's interesting. And it's related.
Where am I here? Okay, Tihobal, that was classroom, school. Tiho, that's to teach.
To teach.
Yeah.
I see. So that's the
Tiho-ib is to study or to learn.
Tiho-ib, study or to learn. Okay.
Yep. Tiho is a diner or an eater.
Okay.
Tihom means eaten or finished eating. Tihonel or Tihonel is teacher. Tihonim is lesson or teaching. Tihonik is teaching. Let's see, where am I? Tihowik is to be edible.
Verbs here, hey? And adjectives.
Tihoshel is student and Tihoshik is the act of being taught or the being taught. So that's all the words with the suffix or the prefix TIJ as in T-hash. There's our examples for the day of the Kiche language can help expand a true knowledge of what the days mean. So
that's that's really, 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 really rich. And I don't know who the hell's listening, but certainly for me, you've really enriched my relationship with those two novels, on those ones. So, I'll let you know over the next year or so when I'm letting all this new information come in, and
it's a little bit more what we just talked about. And we used T.I.S. as an example, and we mentioned Bruce Lee. And then we also discussed how those words that started with that prefix of T. Bruce Lee was a teacher too.
Sure. He was a crazy student and teacher. Crazy.
So you start to see how this is a living calendar. It's not like today's Monday, I have to go back to work today, the weekend's over. It's alive,
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that it's a living system, or something like that. I always like to think about it as the golden compass from the movie The Golden Compass, but I mean, there I go again using a Western conceptualization, and sort of fitting it into my own thing, which is not the correct approach. The correct approach is
to see it for you, because
concepts, man. The words are concepts. So like, unless the Kiche concepts are used, then it's not actually alive or something like that.
Yeah, and it's not going to be accurate.
Right. It's not. It's impossible to understand without doing it. I would say that too.
Yeah.
If you don't do it, then you can't understand it.
That's kind of my mission. That's part of like my mission that I've taken upon myself is, I know everybody has a starting point when it comes to learning something, or an entry into the knowledge. And I went through the same thing where, I found out about it through the New Age. But
that's good. Shout out to the New Age.
I'm tired of the New Age.
Well, no,
because everybody is so just mystified, and that's the wrong way, man.
Okay.
If you go,
let me frame it. Hold on. There's a battle going on. Let me try to frame it in a real, like, everybody wins kind of context. Is like, okay, we got introduced to this tradition via the New Age. Shout outs to the New Age. Thanks for introducing us. Respect. But the New Age is like folklore. Music festivals. What's folklore? Folk culture, right? And there's like folk culture is a big soup, and like there's everything, good, bad, and the ugly in there, and everything all mixed together, and that's good though. Folklore is good, but like the tradition itself is actually like that was sort of the introduction of it. It was sort of like how can I put it? If you took like a 2-week karate class, like that's sort of the first taste of a karate class, but opposed to like if you spend 10 years achieving some level of mastery,
Yeah.
It's just like, well, they're both karate, but like one is really just a surface level thing, and one is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not to say that they're both not like necessary and both part of karate, because you could call the Tzolkin a type of karate, actually. That's actually what I'm going to say. Someone's like, well, what is it? I'm like, well, it's a type of karate. I'm going to fucking say from now on. So professional shit and a type of karate. So that's the Tzolkin today for me is 2 things. Professional shit and a type of karate. Continue. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, if you're listening to this, then hopefully you're ready to move to the next stage in learning about it, and that is
using Mayan words.
Starting to try to understand the language, because you can't understand a culture without having some insight into their language.
Well, here's the thing, too. Words are concepts. They're not, like, you can't actually translate anything. It's always just like a really rough approximation. It's sort of like round peg, square hole. Like, there's no direct translation because the concepts are different.
What is a word? A word, speech. Speech is just making a thought into a sound. So it is making a thought audible. That's all it is. So when you're thinking about this Mayan calendar, when you're thinking about it in your English language, or I say English, but hopefully there's different people all over the world that'll hear this. But obviously, if they're listening, they know English. We've got to start thinking about it respectfully in the Kiche, or I'll say Kiche now because that's the language that I'm learning, and that's the language that the teacher I'm learning from is perspective. And stop with the English way, or the Western quote unquote way of thinking about it. Start to try to learn the concepts through the Mayan perspective. And you can't just of the wall. You have to look deeper into the language, because there's more substance there.
How much more substance is
we talked about today?
Just the tip of a fingernail of an iceberg?
What? I didn't catch.
Just the tip of a fingernail of an iceberg?
Yep. And like you say, we're still in grade school.
Oh, for sure. Maybe grade 1 if I'm,
willing to teach us. And
when the student is ready, the master shall appear. That type of thing.
That's exactly how it happened to me. I mean,
but
look at
I have
me
10 masters,
as an example.
man,
T-hash.
Yeah.
I am the prime. I'm a golden example of a student. Like, I was crying out for a teacher, man. And then Pabyan appeared,
Yeah. Jose's my first teacher. Shout out to Jose.
So, and I want to say, just use you as an example. Definition of kat. Well, that's a net. The network, right? And number 3, it breaks through the obstacle. It opens the path. Like, if we're talking about water, the number 1, like, the water comes forth from the spring. Well, number 3 is like there's a rock, and you just erode through that rock so that the river can flow. Well, you are opening up the way for the network to happen through this podcast.
Well, I did.
You opened the way. You're opening the way for the network of people who are really sincere of learning this and living.
Yeah.
And I've taken my self-education, because that is part of the journey. I mean, you need a teacher, but you also have to study and practice the lesson that you've been given too. But I've taken mine a bit further and started, really studying the sky and the movement of the stars and the planets, because they are part of the calendar. And like Pabyan was talking about the other day, human beings are corn, according to the Mayan way of thinking. We are corn.
Or I mean, yes, I get that. Or I'll use another word, which is fruit.
Yeah, we're fruit.
Well,
the fruit.
Kernels of corn are fruits.
That grow according to the seasons and the stars and the movement of all that. And the Mayan people are the farmers, because all over the world.
Well, actually,
farmers.
Let me just pause for a second real quick here and say, like, the number one thing that I'm so fascinated and passionate about, and it seems that nobody's really getting into this, is the agricultural significance of Mayan civilization. Like that.
Yeah.
That to me is one of the most fascinating, because, like, I'm a chef, right? Or like I'm,
right.
I love cooking and very much, very interested in the subject. So like food, Mayan food. So what their food is agriculture, right? And it's like their agriculture is mind-blowingly other dimensional, like
proliferate.
Well, actually, like if you actually dig around a bit and like just turn it, it's so obvious. God, it's right in your face, and it's like their level of agricultural expertise is unmatched anywhere. I mean, it's like, seriously, like if you think about the things that came out of the Maya or Mexican civilizations agriculturally, it's the world's best food. All of it. It's there. God, it's so, and we never talk about this ever.
And
never.
Yeah, they took a wild plant, corn, because according to what I know,
well, hold on,
which probably may not be at all.
Let me pause you with that theory real quick, because it's a British theory and I think it's gay. Here's the criticism of it. Is there's a story I saw. It's like the History Channel and Discovery Channel type documentary shit, and it's like, and they took a wild plant 200 years before Christ, and they somehow miraculously changed it into this magnificent vegetable we call corn. The end. And that thing is apparently extinct, but corn's still here. But the thing that apparently it came from it's nowhere to be found. It doesn't exist. And it's like, what the fuck kind of theory is that? And like,
thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, well, I'm got this whole, I'm turning over rocks on every time an old British guy says something. I'm like, wait a minute, what makes you think we should trust this guy? And like, turns out, not a whole lot. A lot of the time anyway. So yeah, that's the thing. So like, okay, that's what this British guy says. David Attenborough or whatever. But like, what did the Kiche version of David Attenborough have to say? I'm pretty sure, or whoever else in Mexico or America or, Canada or wherever who's growing corn, like, what do they have to say about where corn's from? And like, chances are they're probably got their finger on it, a little bit better. I think a lot of bullshit coming from those guys.
Right.
Yeah, and it was cultivated by wild. It's in Narnia. It's extinct. It's like, get the fuck out of here. Don't listen to this guy. He's bullshit.
Is there anything you want to touch on before we cut this interview? Because I'm gonna chop this thing up a lot.
Yeah, for sure. No, man, I'm gonna call this interview studying Kiche language. And I would like to thank you very, very much for holding it down. And good to talk to you, man. And have a awesome 12, Kawak and 13 Akpu. Peace out, man.
Yeah. Hey, just before we're gonna send you that book, with all the translations, and to anyone who's listening, we'll post the link, and hopefully you can start deepening your understanding of the Kiche language and broaden your perspective of the calendar.
Sounds good, man. I'll catch up with you next time. Peace.
Yeah. Take care, man.
another great episode. It was absolutely wonderful to talk to Josh about his studying of the Kiche language. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Keep on living the Zolkin. Peace.